everybody is now is digital, like one click, everything has to happen that fast without picking up the phone and everything. So that's where like I was like, how do I do this by automatically calculating this? That's when I started writing my coding. And when I jumped my field from structure to computer science, it took me 7 years to do my second master's while I was working full time with a 2 year old. So anything can be possible. There is nothing in the world which is impossible. So it took me, I was working full time. I had 2 year old. My husband was commuting. He was coming once in 2 years, once in 2 weeks. And we taking two courses at each semester. It took me 7 years. But I just want you to know that believe in yourself, go after your passion, you all can do it. So my other background, what you can see is I'm huge advocate for STEM, women in tech, diversity. I'm a chair for accessibility here in Frisco headquarters. Um, not Frisco, and career panels, mentoring. I do mentoring for undergrad students, grad students, high school, um, any of those, all the above. And what do I do here in T-Mobile? T-Mobile, if you go to t-mobile.com, you see the chat icon on the right side, which says, how can I help? That's my team. The chat platform enabling you. If you are interested to buy an iPhone, you go in and say, hey, I want to buy an iPhone. The whole experience, end to end, that is the platform team I'm talking about, is my team. I have engineers, architects like Shivani, and program managers. Like you all met with different rockstar leaders here. So we all work together to make this amazing product.
We'll pause there for just a moment, and I'm going to throw out a question to the audience. Like, how many women do you think are in computing occupations, like a percentage-wise? And you could enter it in the chat if you'd like, or I don't know if people can actually take themselves off mute. I see less than 20%, 10%, 20%. Well, it's actually 25% of women are in computing, and only 9% are women of color. So, definitely, I would say, like, as we see, as we see people coming into the field, that is growing, but definitely there's definitely a long way to go. But I think through things like this type of event, and leverage your networks and get your network up, this can be something that can grow in the future. And so with that said, I just wanted to throw out a question to the panel. In terms of we've all had like different types of backgrounds and journeys into our careers. In terms of just like difficult challenges in your career life, share with us one of them and how you're able to overcome that.
Okay, I'll go first. Uh, are you talking, Michelle? Are you asking us or the
The
audience?
panelists, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the challenge I'll tell you as an engineer, the first challenge I had, very first job in United States. My first job, my boss told me, as a structural engineer, you have four strikes against you. You are a girl, and you're short. I mean, I'm 5'2", but I'm still considered short in United States. It's 5'7" is average, I guess, height. So, and plus I'm not born natively here in United States. And the fourth is I don't speak Spanish. He said, in this, which is construction and everything, you will have a really challenge navigating through this to make it happen. So guess what? Did I lose anything, or did I was afraid? No, I took that as a challenge. When I was in India taking classes also, we were engineers like 150 students, and we were three girls. So it's common. We just have to stand up for ourselves. And I said, okay, we will build our credibility. We will work through it, and just up for any challenge. If someone says, hey, it's very difficult or girls cannot do it, I'm always raising my hand and say girls can do it. There is nothing which you can do it. Just believe in yourself. When I used to say like sky is a limit, my daughter, who is a high school now senior, she said when she was in elementary, she said, no, mom, sky is not the limit. There is a galaxy out there. So anything we can do, mom. So that's my thing. If you set your mind, go for it. If you are having a challenge, you can make your allies in the team who will be your partners who will help you navigate through, or you can have this, I also say, as board of directors, like mentors who will help you, advocate for you, being there in person or virtually, but you will be able to navigate through. And also, don't self doubt, always open for suggestions, but always believe in yourself. That's how I navigated through, and I built my reputation, credibility. Once you build the credibility, they don't see you're female or male. They'll just see you as an engineer or that person who is doing that job. Like you are equal. Go for it.
I love that, Vera. You're also the president of the Short People Club. Just want to let you know if you missed the chat over there. There's my height, which is 5'1 3/4", and then there's my heel height, which can vary between 5'6" to 5'10". So rock it in any way you can, and I'm with you there. It's just like, gosh, at work, I know Michelle is just like, hey, you're gonna have to talk about your challenges. I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to be the downer in the group, but like it doesn't matter where you are personally or at work. I feel like people are just constantly faced with different sorts of challenges. And at my job, a lot of times it's around launching a new program or a product, but sometimes it's about responding to people or someone who might have said something offensive. So like, how do you get around those conversations you don't want to talk about, right? Like we can do a lot of these things, but sometimes I advise you to just step back and really think about it. Like, what am I trying to accomplish? Am I going about it the wrong way? Is it me, right? Like sometimes I think Katie was saying, we were talking about imposter syndrome, and sometimes as females, or a lot of people of color is like, oh, it's my fault, right? Like, so know like your constraints, your barriers, and in the room. And I can give you an example of a very uncomfortable conversation. And it's the stuff you don't want to talk about. You could be really good at your job. I said, these are A squad leaders over here, but sometimes, things disrupt you in your day that you can't be your whole self. And I remember going into a meeting, and it was during a very intense political time. And what I really appreciate about our T-Mobile leaders is they come in, they're like, hey, when you come into work, come as your whole self. And there are a lot of things going on with politics, with race, with religion, and it's hard for some people to focus when you enter. So talk about it. So and this is not my current team, but I think several teams ago, I had someone come in, and we always do these informal coffee chats. People show up 15 minutes early. The only time they show up early for a T-Mobile meeting, usually everyone's 5 minutes late. And we sit around, we talk about our day, and we're talking about the news and everything like that. And there were people in that meeting who are just like, hey, I'm affected by, George Floyd right now, or I'm affected by a lot of things that are going on, that it's really hard for me to focus when I'm trying to support my community. And a person walked in, and it's usually a very, very inclusive environment. And this person was just like, hey, you guys are talking and you're all being unprofessional. We don't talk about that. We don't do that. Right. And it just stopped the group. And sometimes, like, at least speaking for myself, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be the loud, obnoxious girl. And I happen to be pretty much the only person of color in that room. So some of these people are looking at me like, Joe, say something. And so you're constantly, for me, some of those challenges is like, when do you speak up? When do you advocate for yourself, for your community? When you stop? So like you have to almost say like, who are my allies? What is my end goal? What am I trying to say? What is the work that I'm trying to do? And I believed in that moment to really connect with my team, to connect with this person. I had to say like, well, actually, I humbly disagree with you. I think coming in, and it's great that you can come into work and you don't have to worry about being jumped on the bus, or you don't even have to ride the bus. You can ride your car. We all have our different privileges, and sometimes speaking up and talking about it and saying like, this impacts my work. whether you're an engineer, whether you're a program manager in technology, we're all coming together as people and as advocates. And so, I think that was the most, I was reflecting over all the challenges, and it's like, it's sometimes not the challenge of the work itself. It's those interpersonal dynamics and getting to people. And, after that conversation, my team was like, that person's dead to me. I'm like, whoa, 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 those are strong words. Like, sometimes people just don't know. And, after the conversation, after several conversations, that person has now become an ally. So, I wanted to share a struggle, but also, a happy ending, because sometimes you got to open up and you got to be vulnerable, and it's kind of scary. I'm just noticing right now, I'm like, oh crap, this session's being recorded. It's not Vegas rules over here. But there's a lot of things that can happen in the workplace. And so, be you, be honest, be vocal if that's what you choose to be, or step back and say, I'll approach that later, or I want to be more thoughtful in responding to that. And so, those are just some words of advice to be your author and to speak up when you can.
I wanted to mention something really quickly. You said something, Joe, that made me think about when you asked the question, Michelle. Two things came to mind, but the one thing I wanted to comment on just quickly, when you are in a situation in your career, which will happen if it hasn't already, where you are uncertain, if you are uncomfortable, it's okay, because it's when you're in your comfort zone, or out of your comfort zone rather, that you're growing. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say, hey, you know what, I'm not sure how to do this. I think I might need some help. Fail forward. Don't be afraid to make. I have learned most in my career when I have taken a chance on myself. If I walk into an opportunity and I maybe think I know 70% of it, but the other 30% scares me, if I work really hard and reach out to people who maybe I can emulate what they're doing, I always learn something, and I end up on the other side stronger and more confident. So I just wanted to mention that when you were talking about vulnerability, when you're in a position where you are out of your comfort zone, that's actually a really good thing, because that's when you're growing. So don't be afraid to take on new opportunities, to do things afraid. It's okay to do that.
And I like how we were talking about fear, because I think for me, fear of reaching out, because it's a form of I don't know what I'm doing, or rejection. And I think one of the things early on at T-Mobile is I didn't build my tribe or my squad, right? People that I can go to, people that I can say, hey, if I have a problem, or if I want to network this person with that person, early on, network, get your tribe, your squad, people that you can go to if you need help, people that you can go to if you need support, or you want to support individuals. And I think early on in your career, don't let fear overcome that. Start it early on, build it. Like I was talking with Elizabeth on chat, network as much as you can, even with people that are not in the industry, because some way or another, those bridges are gonna cross.
Yeah, I'd like to add to the same thing. Like, being in a technology space, for me, biggest challenge, I find often that I might be the only woman on the table in some of the core technology discussions and stuff. And it's very easy to fall into that imposter syndrome where you're like doubting yourself. But I have always leaned on that attitude where, like, I'm confident. I know I have my skills that I bring to the table. I never hesitate to speak up uh, or chime in when it's needed. And I've always relied to knock on my allies, be it men or women. I have great mentors that have really helped me in my career path. Networking is a great thing. Like within T-Mobile, outside of T-Mobile, we have a great mentorship program that we really rely upon. And I have great leaders who's always like kept me in check and encouraged me. And then I think being open, and my attitude is like my mantra is like, attitude determines your altitude. And if when you have a zeal for learning, like there's no stop for learning in our life. And if you have that attitude and you go out and be confident, that's what really matters.
Yeah, so definitely surrounding yourself with your tribe, your network, being able to say, hey, have questions and fail fast and learn from that. Those are all things that as you kind of move and maneuver your career, it's going to change. And also, like, even your interests and like the roles that you play are always going to change, because it's like maybe you want to be an engineer, like kind of starting out, and then you want to move over into product. There's always different things that you can do, and always like raise your hand and volunteer for stuff, or maybe like do like a job shadow. There's also other opportunities, like outside of an organization. Like you can LinkedIn is a really great tool to network with people. If there are networks in there, be able to like join different challenges, like this hackathon that you're doing virtual, meeting new people across the country. These are all great ways to be. So another question that I have, for the panel is, like, what would you say would be good advice for people, wanting to get into the technology field, and kind of share with us what you think is important.
I'm going again.
Yeah.
So, I was one of the things I would love to say as a manager. What I'm looking for is definitely is your attitude. Attitude is compared to skills also. Skills is 10% actually, because skills you can learn it, but your attitude and your in the skills you can have technical skills and also soft skills. Both of them will play equal role, but you with that soft skills because you always have it. And other one other thing I reinforce with each and every person, each one of you are a leader. A title does not make you a leader, and you a leader is agnostic to the title, and you have to believe in that. And your soft skill is working together when you're talking about like doing group projects, voluntary work. All those things will refine your soft skills. You can actually do that, like for an employee resource group, if you see anybody like hackathons or walk, I forgot what is it, the walking thing, 5K run and all those things we do for breast cancer, right? Community activities, volunteering and all those things. When you can organize that in the local, those all also reflect in your resume to show that how you're developing those, like how you've been leading it. You don't have to have a real work life this thing only. Sometimes you have a break or something, you still can show those things. Or participating in going to the school in the career panel for the kids, like everybody pay it forward. I believe in it. Like I was mentored and I am able to mentor others. Like it is always pay it forward. So that like that, I always feel like if you go to the kids career panels, you can always say that whatever you're learning, you're also giving it back to the community type. So soft skills and also your attitude. And learning hat is another thing which I always look for. Irrespective of your age and everything, you should be able to do it. You can learn. And one other thing which I will encourage, if you also are looking at like a long gap or something, is like a second returning, right, due to family break or something, you took a health reasons family break, and then you're coming back to the workforce. The other thing I would like to show is what did you do, like not only taking, I actually appreciate that honesty in the resume that you did take a break. And then second thing is what else did you do along with taking care of it? If there is any opportunity, if you took some learning opportunities, it can be as small as 1 week course. It doesn't matter. It's just showing that you made an attempt. That is important.
Yeah, I would like to add to that just briefly. I had a conversation yesterday with someone that I'm mentoring, and he was upset because he is considering a position that he considered to be like a step down from where he is now. And I explained to him that a resume builder is a resume builder. If you are in a situation, if you're learning something new, if you're using a skill that you don't have the opportunity to use in your day job, then that is a great opportunity. And this idea of climbing the ladder is no more. I mean, it's all about doing the things, if it's lateral or if it's, something where maybe you take a position in a different group just so that you can expand your skill set. Those are all really important things to consider because you want to build your resume, and resume building and expanding your skill set are all things that you need to do in order to career, and not be afraid to do that. I think it's okay to reach out and try something new, or, again, try something that maybe is outside of, like I said earlier, outside of your comfort zone. So I love what you said about that. I've downshifted in my career. I call it downshifting several times, where I've taken a step out of the business to care for a loved one who was ill. I've done that twice. And I think, I've learned as much from doing that I have when I've had a brand new job opportunity. So I think everything we do, we can learn from, and we should be able to articulate that and share that with people.
Yeah, I'd like to add one point to all wonderful things Vera and Felice shared is also don't hesitate, don't bracket yourself just because you don't have a skill or a specific thing for a role or something you're trying to go after. Uh, Raise your hand. Maybe like you can also say that, I just want to job shadow someone, or I want to work in this role but officially not have the this one, but where you can gain skills on the job and prove yourself that you can do it, and eventually you might get what you're going after. I have done that a lot of times. I'm always the first to raise my hand if there is an opportunity where I've actually not worked in that space, but there's a opportunity to learn and grow my skills. So those are something that will always take you a long way, and which will eventually, like, people will also know that, yeah, you're meant to do that job. Yeah.
And I like that because I'm also a strong believer that, I know we're hearing in the chat, mentors, know what your goal is, know what your end result is, know what you really want to do, because that passion is going to really light up in finding mentors, but also finding sponsorships, finding someone that's going to sponsor you, that's going to advocate for you, that's going to go the extra mile, that's going to say, hey, I'm your biggest champion. And I think that that's something that we also need to keep in mind, is that goals are very important when you know where you want to go.
Yeah, with that, some practical skills I like to do a gap analysis, right? I nerd out on that. I'm like, hey, I want to jump from one career to another career. I might be trepidatious about that or uncertain, but it's not too challenging to go on LinkedIn or go online and say, what is the job description really asking for? And I do a left hand, right hand column exercise where I'm like, what are the skills and qualifications they're looking for? What are the skills and qualifications I have, or which ones can transfer? And then oftentimes I lean on my network and say, let's say there's a senior program manager technical position that I'm really interested in. And I'm like, oh gosh, I've never been a technical PM before. I know how to PM the crap out of people, meaning get stuff done, but that's essentially what it is. But I don't know all those technical aspects. What I would do is I would look at that job description, do that analysis for myself, just because I'd like to know that. Then I would take a step further. I'd be like, well, there's 3 people. Maybe it's Felice. I'd be like, hey, Felice, do you mind if I spend 5-10 minutes on your calendar? I'd really like to understand what you do, what your day-to-day is. And maybe I can be a little bit more open with Felice and say like, oh, I'm really nervous about this system. I've done these 5 other systems, but I don't know about this one. And she'd be like, oh, you might not need that, or you might need a boot camp for that. And so really talking to people who do the job. And then maybe after I talk to Felice, I'd be like, thank you for your time. I don't want to be a technical program manager, right? And you could say like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't get a degree in that. So it's like, you have to do the work. It's oftentimes like when you transition jobs, and sometimes you're constantly coaching yourself. And for me, like Maggie said, I'm like, I have that squad. You're like, oh, they're like, oh, I know you had that interview. How was that? I'm like, oh, it was rough. Or I'm like, I killed it, right? Like, and you have people backing you up. And those are the people where I'm like, they will tell you the real, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly about yourself. And they're like, oh, you're XYZ type of person, right? So you really got to lean into that. Or recently on our team, we did a DISC assessment. I don't know if you guys know what that personality assessment is. And so on my DISC, I'm a DI, so very direct is my wheelhouse. And so like when you're talking to people and you're doing these things, it's good to have these social cues in terms of like, maybe your communication style isn't the best when talking to a certain person. So as you discover like how you want to transition into a certain job, and it could be a great job, but the wrong company, right? Like you could be like, oh gosh, I love that job, but I don't think I could work for that company for XYZ values. It's okay. It's starting with that research and really understanding the job, really leaning on your network to talk to people and say, can I see myself in that position? And so I'm very action driven, action prone. It's like, what are my next steps? What do I do? Right. And so just starting it, putting something on your calendar, development time, 15 minutes, because if it's not in my calendar, it's not going to happen. I don't care if it's taking care of my kid or eating lunch. They're like, really? You need to put a lunch break in your calendar? I'm like, someone will schedule a meeting, right? Schedule time for yourself and be intentional and be realistic too. Don't put like 5 hours a day and say like, I'm going to rock this, unless you are. For me, I'm like, I could put 15 minutes a week, and that is a achievable goal for me, except in December because it's Christmas time. And, like I'm out, like I'm barbecuing. I forget about the world and life. I wish I was in Italy, Michelle, but I'm not, right? Like I can be in, just know that about yourself. So I think it takes a lot of reflection and trying to decide what you want to do. So that's my take on it.
Okay, so there's a question in chat from Gloria. She often sees entry-level positions requiring 2 to 3 years. Will people ever consider boot camp graduates for these positions? Because some of the positions we don't qualify for. So anybody have an answer for that one?
Yeah, I was working on that answer only for her. I was trying to get back the links and everything. Michelle, I'll send it to you. But there are some, you can build, like, first of all, create just as a habit, as a part of your journey, create a GitHub account for the coding, at least for the coding point of view. And once you created that, then start adding the projects. Some projects can be like volunteer projects. I'm trying to recall that website. Like you can raise your hand, and it can be as simple as um, some maintenance bug. It's in the community. You can all do it's in the openstack.org, I believe. In that, like there are some projects where you can go in different Java, Python, whichever the technology you're using. You can just go in there and look for the smallest code or coding changes or this. You're just building that reputation and credibility in the community. So doing that changes, you raise your hand, you sign up for yourself and take like that. And once you take it, you actually do it. You do not have to be worried or afraid, because that has to be reviewed by 2 other seniors before it gets committed. So you're not breaking anything. It's that's how slowly, the more you do it like slowly like that, you will build that the credibility or confidence in yourself. And then other time, like if you see some project like in the school, sometimes they say, hey, we would love to have this volunteer, can somebody do this real website or coding or something for helping us, raise for that. Or any other community activities where you're doing some fundraising and they say, hey, we want to build this website which can take this and do this, do that. Like open your, raise your hand, like little things, you will add it to your resume. But we do consider boot camps are also there, but we would love to see if there is a hard requirement, if it is a like associate level, like T-Mobile has associate level, it's a fresh graduate, we can just take it with zero experience. But if it is like uh, engineer or something, so they we are expecting little bit experience, you can do with doing the other things. Hopefully
Okay.
that.
Any other questions from the audience? And then we have the information we can share in our document about returnships and internships. Just opening it up for anyone that has any questions about that.
Ooh, that's a good question. Many associate level jobs specifically say they're seeking recent grads. What should we do if we're adult career changers? Rachel, I can address some of that question. So I think the associate level jobs is more for, it's not that you're a recent student, it's more people who are interested in entry level positions in that job. So let's just say you're starting your career again, or you're re-entering a new field. I still think that would apply, because you want to start at that entry level job. Also, anytime you fill out a job description, some people are like, oh, this is a no-brainer, but tailor your resume. Really look at the job description and say, what are the key elements in this job description? How does it fit my resume versus, I'm tempted by this too. I just want to attach a resume and say, call it good. But when they say entry and they're looking at that, there's some expectations that you may not have years of experience in it. Whether you're a new student or not, you may not have years of experience. Maybe you have a boot camp. Maybe you have certain workshop experience, or maybe you have some transferable skills. So hopefully that answers your question. Awesome. Thanks.
And in addition, one other thing I would like to add is, as Michelle has reiterated, you might already have a LinkedIn profiles, right? Add there all the experience you are building it, and if you have someone you worked with involuntary also, and they ask them to provide a recommendation for it, they'll be happy to do it because you have done such an amazing job. Sometimes what happens is, even if you don't have other type of experiences, we like when you're looking at your profile or job, they look at in LinkedIn, is anybody providing you the recommendation? Things helps you across. Just a thought or a recommendation.
I like that, Vera. And you can also use it too. Like sometimes it's like, let's say I'm connected with Maggie on LinkedIn. I'd be like, oh, I see this person is your first connection or your third connection. And maybe I don't know Maggie that well, but it turns a cold call into a warm call. I say, and just expect people to say yes or no. That's your answers, right? But sometimes people get caught up saying, oh gosh, I would ask this person if they know this person and they can give me an introduction, but I'm nervous that they won't respond. I go, what's the worst that can happen? They can say, no, I don't have the capacity to do it. Or even better, yes, I can introduce you to that person. I don't know them very well, but maybe we're connected on LinkedIn and I'm happy to connect you with those people. Sometimes it starts off with just your network and your community moving forward. And maybe, to answer Rachel's question, if you look at jobs on LinkedIn, not that I work for LinkedIn, right? I just think it's very helpful saying like, there are 5 people at this company that you're applying for who work there. Then you can reach out to those people and say, hey, they're looking for an entry-level position. I'm not a recent grad or anything. I am looking for entry-level positions. Do you have time for an informational, or can you give me some time on your calendar to just talk about things, or direct me to someone who can? So I think it starts there.
All right. Hey, Joe, can you talk a little bit about the returnship program? Just so this kind of goes towards this audience as well, changing their careers.
Yeah, absolutely. So the returnship program has existed at T-Mobile since 2019. I won't throw acronyms at you, but it started in a small sector of technology, branched out technology-wide, and then now is enterprise-wide. So it's super exciting to see different branches of technology, HR, finance, you name it, involved in this. And the purpose of the program is to really focus on people who've taken a career break. And a lot of times people assume, that's that mom who left the workplace to raise her child. But I've heard a lot of different stories, and it's phenomenal. Like I've heard people who've survived mountaineering accidents. I'm like, wow, if you can survive a mountaineering accident, we can teach you anything, right? Because you have that grit and tenacity. So it's really a program at T-Mobile. You come in as a temporary full-time employee, and oftentimes people enter mid-level in their career. So, people with at least 5 years of experience, maybe 4 years of experience. Sometimes they come in at 20 years of experience, and they want to bridge that gap in their resume. And so, you might see your resume not being looked at because you do have a 2-year gap or a large chunk of time missing in your resume. And so we target those folks to make sure that they get reskilling, are able to enter the workforce, and really get some mentorship and coaching. We have phenomenal leaders, truly, who care about giving back to the community and also, tapping into top tier talent. So, there is some candidate eligibility here. You just need a minimum of 2 years in a career break. Veterans are welcome, and there's a special caveat to that. If you are returning or transitioning, excuse me, to the workforce as a civilian for the first time. Being a 20-year veteran in the military is very different than working in corporate America. So we do consider candidates there. You do have to be authorized to work in the United States without restriction just because of the types of jobs that are out there. But pretty much they're all over the nation. Any T-Mobile location can support it as long as it's in-person work or hybrid work. And those jobs are expected to be posted mid-February, I'd say, at the earliest. And there's just some samples there of senior or non-senior PMs, engineers. We do really well in our engineering department. And, you know, we take transferable skills and we understand like, hey, you may have not done coding or you may not done Java or C++ or SQL or any of these things for a long time, but the skills are there, the education's there. So it's a time to go back and polish your skills that you had years ago, or, you know, try something new in terms of, hey, I had a career break. I want to enter into the workplace. Maybe I have accounting experience, but I want to try finance, or I want to try HR, and these are my transferable skills. So, you know, it's a phenomenal program, really focused on mentorship and bringing you back, you know, into your career. So, are there any specific questions, Michelle, that people have about the returnship program? It's also on our website, and I can find the link there and copy and paste it into the chat as well.
Okay, I don't see any other questions unless anybody has any questions about returnship. All right, awesome. And then go to the interview practice. Yeah, definitely. We'll go to the next slide and close out our panel here. So we also have internships for the summer in terms of that. And, you know, that's another way to gain some kind of background in that. And those will post in early December timeframe. So take a look at our careers website in terms of returnships, internships, all of that. And I just want to thank all of you and the panelists in terms of your time today. And in terms of staying connected, I know a lot of you put your LinkedIn profiles there. We are also available to answer any questions that you may have. You know, connect with us on LinkedIn, and we'll also you know, connect with Katie if you would like to, you know, join. We've also got different types of activities, events that we do. We host hackathons and different challenges. So those would probably be available to you depending upon where you are location-wise. But definitely wanted to thank you all for your time today, and you know, good luck in your journey. And it'll be cool to see what you end up with in terms of career path. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you all so much. We're so grateful for all of your time. Thank you for sharing, inspiring, opening up opportunities. Maybe some that, you know, returnships is something a lot of folks don't know that exists. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And we'll send you all off, and we'll share all the feedback and the updates when we're done with the event. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.